The unheeded warning. The central chamber of the Galactic Confederation gleamed with polished stone and ancient metals, its vaulted ceiling displaying the real-time movements of 20,000 member worlds. Elder Zareth, her scaled skin faded, from vibrant purple to a muted lavender with age, stood before the Council of Nine with 4 of her 6 arms clasped in formal petition. "I implore you to consider my findings," Zareth said, her voice carrying through the chamber despite her small stature. "This species from the outer rim, these humans, they represent an anomaly in our evolutionary models." High Counselor Nexus, towering over Zareth with his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light from above, waved a dismissive appendage. "Elder Zareth, your dedication to xenological studies is commendable, but the Confederation has encountered 37 new spacefaring species in the last standard cycle alone. What makes these bipeds so exceptional?" Zareth activated her data projection, illuminating the chamber with images of a blue-green world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. "Observe their development curve," she said, highlighting a chart with one finger. "From primitive agriculture to rudimentary space exploration in less than 10,000 years. From splitting the atom to quantum computing in less than 1 century. Rapid development is not unprecedented," countered Counselor Telex, her gelatinous form pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that signaled skepticism. "The Vordak achieved similar technological leaps." "And where are the Vordak now?" Zareth asked. Quietly, the chamber fell silent. The Vordak had destroyed themselves before achieving sustainable interstellar travel. "This is different," Zareth continued. "Humans possess something I've never documented in any species. They thrive on adversity. Their historical records show they don't merely overcome challenges, they emerge stronger from them. They call it anti-fragility. Most species seek homeostasis and stability. Humans seek growth through disorder." High Counselor Nexus studied the projections. "Even if your assessment is correct, they remain primitive. Their vessels barely achieve light speed. Their colonies extend to only 3 nearby stars. The Confederation encompasses 18 galactic sectors. What conceivable threat could they pose?" "It is not their current capabilities that concern me," Zareth replied, "but their trajectory. Their computational models suggest unfamiliar thought patterns, lateral thinking that bypasses established problem-solving hierarchies. Most importantly, they appear immune to the Great Filter." This caught the attention of the Council. The Great Filter, the evolutionary or technological hurdle that prevented most intelligent species from achieving galactic relevance, had culled countless promising civilizations. "Preposterous," declared Counselor Morax, his metallic voice echoing from his cybernetic interface. "All biological species face the filter. It is the natural law of technological evolution." "Nevertheless," Zareth insisted, "I recommend immediate diplomatic engagement under Protocol 7. We should establish formal relations while they remain receptive to guidance." High Counselor Nexus consulted briefly with his colleagues through their neural network. "The Council appreciates your diligence, Elder Zareth, but deems your concerns speculative. Humans will be classified as Category 3, potential future members requiring observation at standard intervals. Their system remains under travel restriction until they independently achieve reliable faster-than-light technology." Zareth's outer eyelids closed slowly in resignation. "You make a grave mistake, counselors. Mark my words, ignore humans at our peril." As she departed the chamber, Zareth could not shake the sense of impending change that had haunted her since first studying human historical archives. The Confederation, for all its age and wisdom, had grown complacent. They failed to recognize what made humans truly dangerous, not their weapons or their technology, but their refusal to accept limitations. 6 cycles later, Commander Joe Lax of the Confederation science vessel Inquirer found himself staring at an impossible sensor reading. "Confirm that signature," he ordered, his tentacular appendages twitching with agitation. His sensor officer, Venick, recalibrated the instruments. "Confirmed, Commander. Unknown vessel at coordinates 227-389-114. It's inside the quarantine zone." "Identification?" None that matches our database, Vanek responded. Configuration suggests artificial construction, but the propulsion signature is unlike anything registered. Commander Jolax hesitated. The restricted space around the human system was clearly marked with automated warning beacons. No unauthorized vessel had violated Confederation boundaries in over 300 cycles. Initiate contact protocol, he decided. Broadcast standard greeting in all common languages. Minutes passed before Vanek reported. Commander, they're responding. In perfect Confederation standard. The main view screen activated, revealing a face that sent a shock through the command deck, a human face. This is Captain Maya Chen of the Earth exploration vessel Pathfinder, the human said, her dark eyes betraying no fear or uncertainty. We apologize for any intrusion. We were unaware this region was claimed territory. Jolax struggled to maintain composure. Human vessel Pathfinder, you have entered restricted Confederation space. Your species has not been granted interstellar travel rights in this sector. How did you bypass our boundary beacons? The human captain tilted her head slightly. We received your warning signals, but our sensors detected no physical barriers. As explorers, we investigated. Is there a diplomatic channel through which we should have requested permission? That's impossible, Vanek whispered to Jolax. Their technological level shouldn't allow them to interpret our beacon signals, much less respond in Confederation standard. How are you communicating with us? Jolax demanded. Captain Chen smiled. We developed a linguistic algorithm based on patterns observed in your transmission frequencies. It's still being refined, but appears functional for basic communication. Jolax felt a cold sensation spread through his central ganglia. The humans had not only discovered the boundary beacons, but had reverse-engineered the communication protocols. From passive observation alone, Elder Zareth's warnings echoed in his mind. Your vessel must return to your origin point immediately, Jolax stated. Further incursion will be considered a violation of Confederation law. Of course, Captain Chen replied with that same unsettling smile. We respect your boundaries and will withdraw. We merely seek peaceful contact and knowledge exchange when you deem appropriate. The human vessel departed as promised, but Jolax knew the encounter would have consequences. The humans had proven far more adaptable than the Confederation had anticipated. He immediately filed a priority report to Central Command. The report languished in bureaucratic channels for nearly a full cycle before reaching Elder Zareth, who had retired to the archives on Centauri Prime. By then, the situation had evolved beyond containment. Zareth stared in disbelief at the intelligence briefing. Human vessels had been detected in 6 different sectors. They had established trading posts with the Krell, the Vox, and most surprisingly, the isolationist Telmarans. Somehow they had bypassed the traditional technological development path that the Confederation had observed in every spacefaring species for 50,000 years. They shouldn't have achieved stable wormhole generation for at least another 3 centuries, muttered Zareth's assistant Prax, reviewing the same data. They didn't, Zareth replied, her aged fingers tracing the energy signatures. This isn't wormhole technology as we understand it. They've developed something different, a localized space-folding technique that requires far less energy but sacrifices precision. That's theoretically impossible, Prax objected. Impossible by our understanding of physics, Zareth corrected. But humans consistently defy conventional limits. They lack our computational capacity, so they employ probabilistic algorithms and intuitive leaps. Where we see absolute barriers, they see opportunities. The intelligence report detailed how humans had formed alliances with frontier worlds, offering technological innovations that addressed specific local needs, rather than imposing standardized Confederation solutions. Their adaptability allowed them to customize their approaches for each species they encountered. Most concerning to the Confederation Council was how quickly alien species had accepted human presence. The humans didn't attempt to dominate or control, they collaborated, treating even primitive species as equals. This approach had won them allies throughout the galactic periphery. The Council has finally authorized first contact under Protocol 7, Prax noted, but I fear it comes too late. The humans are already integrated into the frontier economies. Zareth closed her inner eyelids in contemplation. The Council still doesn't understand. They see humans as simply another emerging species to be managed and eventually absorbed into the Confederation. They fail to recognize what makes humans unique. Which is? When the Confederation encountered the Great Filter, the tendency of technological species to destroy themselves through warfare or resource depletion, we overcame it through rigid control systems and hierarchical governance. Humans survived their filter differently. They embraced chaos, developed redundant systems, celebrated diversity of thought. Where we seek perfect solutions, they accept good enough approaches that can be rapidly improved. Zareth pulled up another file, confidential psychological, assessments of human diplomats and traders who had interacted with Confederation representatives. Look at these stress responses, she said. When confronted with failure or setback, their neural activity doesn't show typical signs of discouragement. Instead, they demonstrate heightened creativity and determination. They don't fear failure, they learn from it. A dangerous mindset, Prax observed. Indeed, Zareth agreed, but also potentially transformative for the galaxy. The communication panel chimed with an emergency alert. A Confederation diplomatic vessel had been destroyed in the Arcturus sector, not by humans, but by an ancient automated defense system that had lain dormant for millennia. The humans, ignoring Confederation warnings, had already dispatched rescue vessels. And so it begins, Zareth whispered. The Council will view this as human interference. They still don't see what I've been trying to tell them. Which is, Zareth looked up at her assistant, all four of her eyes reflecting the glow of the emergency beacon. The humans aren't just another species joining the galactic community, Prax. They're going to transform it completely, and the Confederation is woefully unprepared for the revolution that's coming. The inevitable Rise First Counselor Nexus stood before the emergency session of the Confederation Grand Assembly, his crystalline exoskeleton dulled with stress. Representatives from 800 worlds filled the chamber, their anxious murmurs creating a cacophony that the acoustic dampeners struggled to contain. "Order," Nexus commanded, his voice amplified throughout the vast hall. "The Council has convened this extraordinary session to address the human situation." The chamber quieted as data projections illuminated the central space. Maps showing human expansion across 17 sectors in just 3 cycles, trade routes connecting formerly isolated species, and most alarmingly, technological exchange. Programs that violated the Confederation's careful developmental protocols. As you can see, Nexus continued, the human contagion has spread beyond initial containment parameters. Their disregard for our established order threatens the stability we have maintained for 50,000 years. From her observer's seat, Elder Zareth watched the proceedings with growing concern. The Council had systematically misinterpreted every human action, viewing cooperation as infiltration, innovation as dangerous deviation, and diplomacy as manipulation. The Council proposes immediate implementation of Directive 459, Nexus announced. All trade with human vessels will cease. Information exchange will be prohibited. Member worlds engaging in unauthorized contact will face sanctions. Representative Krell from the mineral-rich worlds of the Orion Arm rose on his gravitational platform. With respect, First Counselor, human engineering innovations have increased our extraction efficiency by 300%. The proposed restrictions would devastate our economies. Short-term disruptions are acceptable in service of long-term stability, Nexus replied dismissively. The humans introduce unpredictable variables into our carefully balanced systems. Representative Telmar, whose people had been among the first to trade with humans, activated her communication node. The humans helped us reclaim territories lost to the crystal blight when Confederation scientists declared those worlds permanently uninhabitable. They approach problems differently, not superior or inferior, just different. Nexus remained unmoved. Their methods lack proper testing protocols. They implement solutions without centuries of careful study. This recklessness will eventually lead to catastrophe. The debate continued for hours, revealing a clear division between core worlds committed to traditional Confederation methods and frontier worlds that had benefited from human innovation. When the vote came, Directive 459 passed by a narrow margin, establishing what amounted to a quarantine around human-influenced regions. On the frontier world of Keras 4, a different meeting was taking place. Captain Maya Chen, now Ambassador Chen, sat across from Elder Zareth in a small garden designed to accommodate diverse biological needs. "Your council misunderstands us," Chen said, sipping a beverage that approximated Earth tea. "We have no desire to disrupt the Confederation. Yet disruption follows wherever humans go," Zareth replied. "It is your nature." Chen smiled. "Perhaps change would be a better word than disruption. We've always been catalysts for change." "The Confederation values stability above all," Zareth explained. "It emerged from the chaos of the last Great War, when 1,000 worlds burned. The protocols you so readily ignore were written in the ashes of civilizations. With respect, Elder Zareth, stability without growth becomes stagnation. Your own archives show technological development has plateaued for the past 5,000 years. Species still face the same challenges they did millennia ago, because the approved solutions never evolve." Zareth couldn't refute this. The Confederation's focus on proven methodologies had indeed created a certain technological stasis. "There is wisdom in caution," she countered. "And there is death in paralysis," Chen replied. "We've discovered something your council should know about, something that challenges everything the Confederation believes." Chen activated a holographic projector, showing images of what appeared to be ancient ruins on a distant world. "This is Installation 7, according to your archives, a failed research outpost abandoned 20,000 years ago." Zareth's inner eyelids widened in recognition. "The Precursor Technology Research Station. It was deemed too dangerous to continue after the quantum cascade failure." "We found it by accident," Chen explained, "and we made it work." Zareth nearly dropped her ceremonial staff. "Impossible. The precursor artifacts defied all attempted activation for millennia. Because you approached them with assumptions about how technology should function," Chen said. "Our scientists had no such preconceptions. The artifacts weren't failing. They were waiting for the right questions." The implications staggered Zareth. The precursors had been the greatest civilization in known galactic history, mysteriously vanishing at the height of their power. Their abandoned technology had been studied and eventually abandoned by the Confederation after countless failed attempts at utilization. "What have you done?" Zareth whispered. "We've learned to communicate with the installation's central intelligence," Chen replied. "And it's shown us something that your council needs to see regardless of their quarantine." The installation's revelation came too late. 3 days after Chen's meeting with Zareth, automated defense systems throughout Confederation space detected an anomaly emerging from the galactic core, a quantum disruption that defied conventional analysis. On the Confederation capital world, alarms that hadn't sounded in 20,000 years screamed to life. Nexus and the Council gathered in the Emergency Command Center, watching in horror as the disruption expanded, consuming stellar material and warping space-time itself. "What is it?" demanded Counselor Telex. "Unknown," replied the Chief Science Officer. "It shares characteristics with a quantum singularity, but demonstrates purposeful movement inconsistent with natural phenomena." "A weapon?" asked Counselor Morax. "If so, none recorded in our archives," the Science Officer admitted. As the Council debated response options, a communication request flashed on the primary screen, originating from a human vessel. "Ignore it," ordered Nexus. "Directive 459 remains in effect." Elder Zareth, who had been granted emergency council access due to her expertise, stepped forward. "First, Counselor, I suggest we hear what they have to say. This crisis supersedes political concerns." After a moment's hesitation, Nexus authorized the connection. Ambassador Chen's face appeared on the screen, the background showing what was unmistakably a precursor control room. "Counselors," Chen said without preamble, "we've identified the anomaly. The precursor records call it a phage, a self-replicating, space-time consumer deployed as a weapon in their final war. It's been dormant in the galactic core for millennia, but something has activated it. "How do you access precursor records?" demanded the science officer. "Those systems have been inert since their civilization collapsed." "That's not important now," Chen replied. "What matters is that we have a solution, but we need Confederation cooperation." Nexus bristled visibly. "The Confederation does not take direction from—" "Enough," Zareth interrupted. "First Counselor, 17 worlds have already gone dark. This is not the time for pride." The chamber fell silent as the reality of the situation sank in. Eventually, Nexus nodded. "What do you propose, Ambassador?" The human solution violated every safety protocol in Confederation history. It required synchronizing the quantum resonance of 200 defense platforms to create a dimensional inversion field, essentially folding a portion of space-time back on itself to trap the phage in a recursive loop. "The mathematical probability of success is below acceptable thresholds," objected the Confederation's master strategist. "Synchronizing 200 platforms across 17 sectors has never been attempted." "Conventional success parameters don't apply here," replied Lieutenant Raj Singh, the human quantum physicist leading the operation. "We're not seeking perfection, just sufficient disruption to trigger the field collapse." The operation control center was a chaos of activity as human engineers worked alongside Confederation technicians, bridging incompatible systems with improvised interfaces. Elder Zareth observed with fascination how the humans embraced the impossible task, their stress responses showing not fear, but heightened focus. "You're enjoying this," she said to Ambassador Chen as they watched the preparations. Chen's expression remained serious, but there was an undeniable energy in her stance. Not the danger, but the challenge. It's who we are. When the defense platforms were finally aligned, Lieutenant Singh turned to First Counselor Nexus. "The system is ready. We need your authorization." Nexus hesitated, his crystalline appendages vibrating with tension. "The consequences of failure are no worse than the consequences of inaction," Chen interrupted. "Every moment we delay, another world goes dark." With visible reluctance, Nexus gave the authorization. Lieutenant Singh initiated the sequence, and throughout Confederation space, 200 ancient defense platforms simultaneously reconfigured their quantum matrices, creating a harmonic convergence that bent the fabric of reality itself. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then the phage, now visible as a roiling mass of fractured space-time, began to contract. The defense platforms strained under the unprecedented power draw, many overloading and shutting down. For a critical second, the field wavered, until human engineers rerouted emergency power from their own vessels, stabilizing the matrix just long enough. With a silent flash that temporarily blinded every sensor in 17 sectors, the phage collapsed in on itself, trapped in an endless recursive loop of its own consumption. In the stunned silence that followed, Elder Zareth turned to First Counselor Nexus. "Now, do you understand what I've been trying to tell you about humans?" 3 months later, the Galactic Confederation convened a very different assembly. For the first time in its 50,000-year history, non-member representatives were invited to address the full council, a delegation of humans led by Ambassador Chen. "The phage crisis has shown us that our assumptions about galactic governance require reassessment," Nexus announced, his tone suggesting the admission didn't come easily. "While the Confederation has preserved peace and stability, we have perhaps sacrificed adaptability in the process." The proposal before the Assembly was unprecedented, a restructuring of Confederation protocols to create an innovation directorate with humans serving as key advisors. The rigid developmental hierarchy that had governed species advancement would be replaced with a more flexible framework that encouraged collaboration and knowledge exchange. Not everyone was pleased. Many core worlds viewed the changes with suspicion, fearing the unpredictability that human involvement would bring, but the frontier worlds, which had already experienced the benefits of human partnership, strongly supported the new direction. As the Assembly debated, Elder Zareth found Ambassador Chen observing from a quiet balcony overlooking the chamber. Your species has accomplished in 3 cycles what I feared would take centuries, Zareth said. You've fundamentally altered the course of galactic civilization. Chen shook her head. We merely provided an alternative perspective. The Confederation was ready for change. They just needed permission to embrace it. And now? What does humanity seek from this new arrangement? Chen looked out over the assembled representatives, hundreds of species debating a future that none of them could fully predict. The same thing we've always sought, she replied. New horizons, new challenges, new opportunities to learn and grow. We don't want to lead the galaxy, Elder Zareth. We just want to help it evolve. Zareth considered this. The Council still fears you, you know. They worry your influence will grow too quickly, that you'll eventually replace the established order entirely. Change doesn't mean replacement, Chen said. It means adaptation. The Confederation has preserved knowledge and prevented conflict for 50 millennia, an achievement worthy of profound respect. But preservation alone isn't enough. Life must evolve or stagnate. Below them, the vote was proceeding. One by one, representatives registered their positions, their indicators lighting up across the vast chamber. When the final tally appeared, the restructuring had passed, narrowly, but definitively. And so begins a new era, Zareth said quietly. Not an ending but a continuation, Chen corrected. The next chapter in a story that's still being written. As they watched, the Great Seal of the Confederation that had dominated the chamber for 50,000 years slowly transformed, incorporating a new symbol, a simple representation of a double helix, the human DNA strand that had proven to be the most adaptable structure in the known galaxy. Elder Zareth, who had first warned the Council about humanity's potential, felt no satisfaction in being proven right. Instead, she felt something she hadn't experienced in centuries, curiosity about what might come next. For the first time in millennia, the future of the galaxy was genuinely unpredictable. And paradoxically, that uncertainty brought with it a renewed sense of hope.